Committee has been going through the policies, but this we felt the treasurer should handle.
Yeah, it says, it's at the very bottom, that the investment policy shall be formally approved and adopted, and reviewed annually, so. So we need to
It says so.
re-adopt it annually. The very last
It
line.
hasn't been reviewed since 6/12/12.
Well, that's when it was rewritten.
That's
So,
what it was all.
all right, so then I would submit a motion to approve the Morgan Grove Public Library investment policy as it was written on June 12th of 2012.
I will second that.
Any other discussion? If not, call the roll. Please.
Yes.
I have one question
Go ahead.
before you do
Go
that.
ahead.
Yeah.
Is our investment company that we're using, are they aware of the expenses that we've had?
I've talked to him.
All right, so they're not gonna reinvest that money.
Every time something comes up for reinvestment, I get an email and a phone call, and the last couple times I've had him not reinvest it, so it's been
Okay.
accessible to pay his
Very
bills.
Because that should be clearly understood in our policy as to how we treat that.
And it still draws interest, it just doesn't get reinvested in a CD that would make more interest.
There's no interest to it.
There's not much, yeah.
Point,
Whatever.
point something, yeah. But at least there's no penalty if we draw
No,
back out when it's matured.
right, just we,
Okay, trustee Albers,
Yes.
trustee Berg, yes. Trustee Calamag,
Yes.
trustee Goldstein,
yes.
trustee Novak,
Yes.
thank you. Number five.
And if you would also call the approval of the October financial statements, because we overlooked that.
Okay.
So I would motion to approve the October financials.
Excuse me, it's the November.
Yeah, it is November.
Or November, no, yeah.
It says October, you know, we didn't
I know.
spend enough time with this agenda this time. We just have been crazy in the business office, I
I don't
apologize.
understand why.
I'm really
I
sorry.
mean, I'm really
If there's something
disappointed.
going on in the building that we're missing.
Are you distracted?
Just a little bit.
Oh, man.
Yes, the building is missing.
You could
But I
gi-
said it
you
to you
could
too, it won't take all
You
the
could give up
money.
on concerts.
Don't you go there.
Okay,
Feeling that was a dangerous area.
trustee Albers made a motion to approve the November financial statements.
Yes.
Can we have a second on that? Dr. Calamag, okay. All right. Trustee Novak?
Yes.
Okay. Trustee Goldstein?
Yes.
Trustee Calamag?
Yeah.
Trustee Berg, yes. Trustee Albers, yes.
Yes.
Is there anything on facilities that we haven't heard? Did everybody get this memo from
Me.
her?
Yeah, we got that.
It came yesterday.
It should be in your email, or I just had a
It'll
summary
be
of all the
today.
different things that are going on. I wanted to make sure you were all aware of.
Uh,
And since then, we have passed our fire alarm inspection since I wrote that, so, for the other building.
Okay, well, if you haven't read it, you might want to read it. That's all I can suggest. It's on your email.
Did you say the fire alarm was in already?
It's all been installed, there's, not sure if they finished this afternoon, there was one piece of ductwork they were
Okay, so
finishing,
you
but
can now start using the,
as of Monday for sure,
Just as-
possibly
as-
Friday.
as
Bill
employees.
Porter's been out here, tested the system, everything worked properly, so yes.
well, that's pretty close to what you were looking for.
Yes, we're very pleased, and we're really grateful that the fire department was helpful, really helpful there at that time.
So you're gonna be putting in the computer system.
Initially, we're going to be putting probably 8 of our staff over there in the month of January while they can't use their offices here, as well as all of the storage in this room so we can use the Baxter room. We're going to move the storage over there and some things from the CSS room because we're going to be putting a couple offices in the CSS room, as well as we are piling up the new books that there's no shelves to put on. those are being piled up in the CSS room. So we're just kind of shuffling our storage during construction, so it really allows us to do that.
Anything else that the computer that's related?
Facility-wise, I think you're all up to date. Does anybody have any questions? I might be missing.
Alex, can you report for the policy committee?
No, I wasn't at the meeting.
That's true, you weren't.
Well, the reason we didn't have a meeting is because we didn't really change the ILL policy, but again, it's something that needs to be reviewed annually. And I did talk to our head of circulation, and the only thing we did was clarify the last bullet point on the first page, split it into 2 sentences because it could have been interpreted 2 different ways. Other than that, the policy is the same as it's been. And you can see on the back that the same one has been amended and reviewed all the way back to, I think, 1996. So we haven't had a lot of changes in how we handle interlibrary loan. But we do, again, need to, and we have, the policy committee has a cycle now of all of our policies, so something's being reviewed every month. And sometimes there are more changes to make, but this particular policy really doesn't require change, it just requires adopting, unless you see something new.
So then what changed in this policy?
Just
One
this
sentence was
sentence.
broken into 2 sentences.
And the intent was not changed, it was just clarified. So we
Can
can just
clarify the last
really just
portion of
re-adopt.
of the $50.
Correct.
So you can get a $50 fine plus the cost of
Plus the cost of.
Plus the cost, right, that was what
Cost
wasn't
of
clear.
whatever it is.
or whatever.
Because we do have to pay the lending library the cost of an item that's
Yeah.
lost. So we want to make sure that was understood, we do charge that
Yeah.
back to the patron if they lose something.
Cost of-
Okay, staff reports, it's your
Well,
turn.
it has to be,
So then you have to
Oh,
approve the
yes.
new interlibrary loan.
has to be,
I'm in a hurry.
So
approved or
then this is
adopted.
gonna be on 12,
I propose
18,
that we
14.
accept the interlibrary loans policy as minusculely modified. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Minusculely modified.
I like
Can you spell that minusculely?
I will figure it
I
out.
learned that one in physical therapy.
I will figure it out, since I'm a physical therapist, I'm supposed to know.
Very little,
Now, that's approval of the
minusculely.
Illinois,
I like playing with language.
the interlibrary
Loan policy.
loan policy. You really want it minusculely?
No.
I would just go as
You
submitted,
got it
12,
down.
18, 14.
Don't like minusculely, huh?
I do like it.
You like that? I've got one person on my side around here.
All right, trustee Albers,
Yes.
trustee Berg, yes, trustee Gallamag,
Yeah.
trustee Goldstein,
Yes.
and trustee Novick.
Yes.
It minusculely passes by 5 votes.
Oh, no, that's a major.
No, it's
That's
a
a major.
major.
Majorly.
Overwhelming.
Better get.
A 5-vote margin can be very large or very.
When you have 5 people
Minus-
voting, and it's
5
5
voting, it's
people, and it's
large.
very large.
Otherwise, it could be minuscule.
Okay, staff report, director, have you anything you would like to say?
Just want to point out a couple things in the report that despite having the main floor still closed, we've given many programs, our staff have been busy. Our reference staffs, even though we have a tiny little reference desk, we still get a lot of questions, a lot of them are on the phone. We had to move our adult area to even smaller space because of the construction that's about to begin for the ramp and the roofing, so we couldn't stay in that outer hallway in case something fell through. But still, we have people using those computers every day. And I also wanted to point out in youth services, they've been very busy down there. We still had our annual art program, and 100 people came to the art reception. 45 kids participated in the art contest. So we've been continuing to serve the public as best as we can in this slightly crippled state we are in. If you look at our statistics, they're not even really down by 50%, so even with the portion of the collection that we have in storage, we're still really working hard to, to meet people's reading needs through interlibrary loan or our new materials and our holds. So overall, I'm really proud of how the staff have hung in there and continued to keep the library functioning. So we were really trying not to have to close it all. The Frontier Construction asked us to because it will be extremely noisy and somewhat dangerous for a short period of time. But we've been able to soldier on and keep things going.
You to be commended for it.
Yes.
So book circulation is down, but the e-resources are up quite a bit,
Well, it makes sense.
which is kind of,
It
that's
makes
the
sense.
typical trend anyhow,
That's
right?
the trend.
That's the trend for one thing, and
But
it
might
makes
be a little
sense,
more
and that's what's
enhanced.
available.
Yeah, it's enhanced because our books are.
Yeah.
And it only convinces me we don't need a bigger library.
Well, I mean,
At
we
least
tend to
it-
be matching the nationwide trends of
Right,
bigger isn't necessarily better.
right.
Yeah.
Okay, there'll be no report from corporate counsel, as he's not here. Strategic
I can say
planning.
something in his place.
Oh,
He's,
can you have something? I'm sorry.
that's okay. He reviewed the Frontier contract before I signed it, and now he is working with MB Financial on the closing of the bridge so he is doing something for us. He just isn't here tonight.
Sorry. Strategic planning. We were trying to get a committee formed, and Mark has agreed to serve, I believe. And we wanted to have 2 people from the board and 2 people from the library.
I thought it best, well, 2 board members, not 3, because then we don't have to go
Right,
into.
Well, you don't want to run into 3.
Right.
Is there somebody here who would be interested in serving on the strategic planning committee?
Is there?
If
Other
you're,
than-
if you're heading it up, I think you could work with me.
Okay, I mean, I'm fine with that, whoever wants to throw their name in the hat.
I have certainly more time than Doc Kellerman.
Okay. Last month, Deborah handed out the tentative beginnings of a strategic plan. Everybody should have that from last month.
And it incorporates what Sarah did for us last summer. Some libraries simply use what she produces as their strategic plan, but we kind of agreed that it wasn't specific enough, so we used it as a starting point. And I think the committee can probably not need to spend too much time to create a usable document on that.
It won't. All right,
Okay, we're on 9, new business. I'm putting off the board member orientation procedure, mostly because I've come across possibly other additional means of orientation that might be of interest, and I'm waiting to get information about it. So that will probably be on next month's agenda. The next item is to approve the schedule for the 2015 regular board meetings. Deborah went ahead and set up a schedule for board meetings to take place on the second Tuesday, as the feeling was that we're waiting to the Thursday,
Yeah,
the third Thursday, which is too long into the month to get to the monthly board's reports. The problem was that our bylaws say that we meet on the third Thursday. So in order to make the change, I've handed out something that looks like this. It's saying that we would be changing the board meetings to the second Thursday of the month, but because you didn't have a 10-day notice, we will have to vote on it at the next meeting. And that's okay, because the first meeting in January was gonna be the third Thursday anyway, because of the library being closed. Therefore, we're okay, other than it's supposed to be announced in publicly And we'll just have to be late, and we'll just blame it on the dust in our eyes. It's hard to see.
No, this is being announced publicly tonight.
So starting
Yeah.
in February will be
Okay.
the second.
The
Sorry.
bylaws not.
Okay, so the bylaws need to agree with this, though.
At some point, yeah.
Okay. So if everybody's in agreement, then we could vote on it, and then next month vote on the bylaws just to make it
Correct.
fit.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So this is the meeting you want to adopt this, so
Okay.
I would motion to adopt the board schedule for 2015, where January 15th will be our first meeting, and subsequently we will meet on the second Thursday of every month thereafter.
second that motion.
Any questions, discussions?
I have to change my calendar, I already know.
Do you have to get a new calendar?
Well, I don't know if Simpkins will give me another one.
I got about 14 of them.
I have plenty,
I don't know what to do
a
with them.
lot of
I gotta quit making donations.
animals.
So on
January.
January 15th is going to be the third
The
Thursday.
third Thursday.
But then every other
Every-
month is going to be
Second.
If there's no discussion, can we verbally?
that one you
Yes.
can.
I have a question.
Yes.
Then all the, like the policy committee, we meet the week before.
We'll have to determine when.
We'll have to determine when that
It's
will
not
be.
part of this.
Okay, yeah, this is just, right. We'll have to probably change that meeting.
I would think so.
I mean, that could be the third, well, we'd like to have it before so that we can vote it at least. So it either end up being the first or the fourth,
Or Tuesday
or Tuesday.
of the same week,
The same.
that would probably work.
Would that give us enough notice?
I think so. Because the staff need, well, we'll talk about that, but
Yeah,
the staff needs some
yeah.
time to look at them
And
too.
I need to look at the class schedule here, so I can
Can we vote on it?
get- Okay, all those in favor of the schedule of regular meetings for 2015, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. At this point, open meeting compliance, we need to go into executive session, so,
Traffic study for the safety.
oh, I missed that one on purpose.
Well, let me just say, I put it on here in case I had quotes that needed to be voted on. I don't have any quotes. I don't know if they'll be so high that they need to be, because I have no idea what the ballpark will even be. But that is part of the special use application for the new building, and the village asked me to have the special use application done by January 5th, so, which is my goal. I hope we can do that. This is the only thing that would cost anything, so I don't have any quotes because I'm not sure exactly what's involved. And I've talked to 2 engineers that are trying to determine exactly how to approach that study. So that's really all I have to say about that at this point. There's nothing going on yet.
It's also discussed in that memo and that email.
What if we just said no?
I don't know that we could do the special use application without it.
But I mean, they're spending taxpayer money that I just don't think we need to
The
spend.
problem is, Mark, and I agree with you entirely, I don't want them to then say no to our special use. I don't want them to retaliate.
Until you, I don't think that
I
they
have-
will retaliate, but I think you could have a discussion with them to ask them to justify why we need to have a traffic study when all we're doing is opening up the building next door.
What
Because
was
they're
the-
gonna walk.
What was the traffic study prior to?
There wasn't any.
Well, if there wasn't any, then there's nothing, there's no precedent for it.
There's always precedent for traffic study.
It is
when
part of the
something moves.
application,
It's
yes.
part of the routine application.
I thought
Since-
there was some thought as to
For a special
closing off
use
the street
permit.
over this.
As far back as I
I'm not
know.
making that request at this time. Maybe someday, but that isn't part of this, so that wouldn't affect it. The thinking was that the library should make sure they've, dotted their i's and crossed their t's in case there's any complaints about expanding to across the street. However, we feel that we're not increasing any foot traffic, we're just sending some of the patrons that would come here over there, since this building, becoming ADA compliant, no longer has as much space for materials and services. So we're not really adding any new services at this point. Therefore, the traffic shouldn't change And that is probably what a traffic study would show. However, in our current state where half of our materials aren't even available and our foot traffic is down, we don't believe a traffic study would even be accurate until
In
probably,
fact, it could hurt us for the future
Yeah.
if we do add any programs.
That's why I would say Deer Village, why, they're picking the pockets of the taxpayers. They
How
have a
much does
study
the
there.
traffic study cost?
we don't
5 to
know.
We have
7,000.
no idea.
How much?
5 to 7.
We don't need it yet.
For what?
Well,
I would ask them to
Somebody-
take,
To
I would
cars.
ask them
Yeah.
to please.
There's no study with
Since-
an engineer that's gonna last a week that's gonna be
Yeah.
less than 5.
5,000, yeah.
I have at least requested that we could put the application in without it if we could do it later, but I haven't had an answer on that.
Good.
There's really no way to have it done by January 5th.
No, and it wouldn't be relevant because
It's not
we're really not even
relevant.
using the building.
Right.
But it would still need to be done by the time the whole thing is done, which is, I wanna say, March 31st or something
Well,
like that,
ask
so.
them for April the 1st or something. like
There's-
that, Extension.
Many steps that they make us go through.
Of course.
And
Everybody wants a job.
everybody wants a job. That's exactly what it boils down to.
They want to justify their.
They wanna justify their
Exactly,
existence, yeah.
yeah.
But if we had money
It's like a
growing on the
joint
tree in the
commission.
backyard, I'd say go ahead, but I'm a little picky. on
Our
this.
tree is running out.
Yeah,
Yeah. Tree's bare, it's mine.
I mean, you have to have furniture for our patrons to sit in, but you don't need the traffic studies, it's really not gonna tell us much of anything.
No.
No, once people get used to that, these services are there and these services are here, they'll know exactly what building to go to,
I
and they
think
won't
they're
even be
just
crossing
picking,
the
I think they're
street.
picking the taxpayers' pockets.
I
And I
agree with
object
you.
to that.
That's what they do.
Yeah, I say no to the bureaucrats.
We don't need that yet.
No.
So you want me to go back and submit it
We'd
without
like
it?
to talk to them about it. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
if we
really
can.
love to talk to them
Plus,
about it.
plus the fact is, we can't do a legitimate study since we haven't
Right.
even
Yeah.
begun
There's
to
no
use the
There is a
building.
village engineer in it, so we need to talk.
And I'm afraid
Yeah,
it could
that's
hurt us in
fine.
the long run if we do something that will increase.
That's
the
right, it's
traffic.
gonna change, it
They're
could
gonna be
change.
looking at very low numbers that don't mean anything.
There's
Yeah.
Instead of the
parking for
reality.
5 cars over
Right, so how
there.
many
There's
cars
no
are gonna?
traffic.
It just did
There's
this.
no
It's parking
traffic.
for 5 cars, it's 5
Yeah.
cars.
Somebody needs a job, Mark.
I know that, and you know what, let them go find a job,
Thank
but
you.
I'm not gonna pay them, you know,
Agree with you.
no, sometimes you have to say no. Anyhow, D, open meetings complaints.
Okay, that will handle an executive session. So let's finish the agenda and then put the executive session with the.
You only need to go into executive session to do this if there's gonna be any discussions of the
Oh,
actual.
there's not gonna be any
So now,
discussion because we're
if-
putting it off.
So
Well, no,
if,
we're not putting all of it off, we're doing the part about destroying the,
if you have, so maybe you wanna explain how it is we're tabling this part of it for next meeting, or you want me to?
go ahead.
So, because we didn't get a chance to review all of, and there's a stack of things to look at, to make a decision on. We didn't get that into the packet in time for everybody to review it prior to the meeting. My suggestion to Deborah is, let's take this and table it till the next meeting. We'll get it out so everybody can read it ahead of time. Then we can go through this rather than sitting here for 45 minutes and reading
I
through it.
agree.
So the intent
table
was
it.
to do this on time. We're just gonna kick it back 1 month for the sake of doing it that way. There was one tape that Deborah thought we might be able to just talk about, and, There's recommendations to destroy it, or-
Yeah, recordings that are over 18 months can be destroyed, and so June 20th of 2013 has a recording of the closed session minutes, but of course the paper session minutes would still be kept. So do we want to destroy those closed session minutes from June 20th of 2013?
but we don't know what's on it because
Yeah,
they don't
it
have-
does say semi-annual review of closed session minutes.
That's what it was?
Yes.
That's what those minutes were.
So the
that's all they
minutes
were.
were,
The minutes
The
were.
minutes were of the
We're off the
Destruction
destruction
minutes.
minutes, that's all it is.
Ridiculous.
I would say we'd probably get Viola Eraser out there and get rid of
We
it.
could probably do that,
So
It's
you
getting
would,
to the point.
you would need to motion to do something
You're
with that.
beginning to sound like Congress.
Yes,
Oh, God, help us,
Yeah.
no.
yeah. But I don't do motions, right? You guys have to do that.
correct.
It's redundant.
So we would want a motion to destroy the closed session minutes of June 20th, 2013.
Taped
Taped.
closed session.
Tape closed session.
Yeah.
So moved. Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
That one needs to be called.
That has to be called, I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
I'm just still saying it, to destroy,
The
The
tape-
6/20/13.
The taped minutes of six,
Of the executive
6/20.
of
session.
executive
closed
session.
session minutes of executive
Session.
session, dated 6/12,
20.
6/20,
2013.
13. Okay, and that was, made by
Me, I-
Elvers and Novak? Elvers, Novak? Okay. Elvers,
Yes.
Bird, yes, Calamack,
Yeah.
trustee Goldstein,
Yes.
trustee Novak.
yes,
5-0.
okay.
Is this an appropriate time to bring up the, something that Kathy and I were discussing after the facilities meeting regarding developing this room to be,
As long as it doesn't involve any kind of contractual stuff.
well, this is just, I'm thinking it doesn't cover new business. The making of the Baxter room
Handicap
ADA, yeah, accessible.
I have a quote about a lift, and I have some quotes to put together, a construction grant proposal for the Live and Learn construction grant that's due January 9th.
9,
I haven't finished it, I will send it around for you to see, but it is for a lift in that corner of the room.
Because
It wouldn't be hiring anybody at this point.
Yeah, because Kathy and I were discussing, and after thinking about it, I thought that back section there, I think it might have some merit, because you eliminate any lift whatsoever.
It isn't the same level inside the room as it is
No,
out there,
you would have
so
to.
you'd have to do some
you'd have
major
to-
remodeling.
You'd have to see how major it would be.
And I don't know if I can
We
get a
don't
quote
know
on
what's
that
in the
in time
floor.
for the,
We don't know what's in the raised floor.
well, we'd be building over that, I think.
There may be,
Here?
there might be pipes because there's running water right next to it.
If we want to wait and look at proposals like that, I won't be able to write it for the
Yeah, I know.
grant.
I would say, my thinking is go with
Go
what
ahead
you're
and write
doing.
it. I mean, you may not get it anyway, but
Yeah.
and my thinking too about the grants is that they probably won't be here in 2016. I'm thinking
Yeah,
2015
you're
is.
trying to grab one, you can't, I don't blame you either. My thought too about the lift is that the lift is a wonderful thing, but it's slow. In the event of fire, are we covered through ADA or not?
This would make us ADA compliant for this room, and in the event of fire, I think people would be grabbing wheelchairs and carrying them
Oh,
out.
of course, we know that.
That's what
you know,
we'd be trained
but
to do.
we probably only have, the maximum of half a dozen chairs.
I mean, look at your average hospital, and they managed to get them cleared out.
I mean, I think we realize that, but the law is sometimes so written so poorly that it indicts you before you've done anything.
It's true.
So, just curious about that, because I'm not well versed on it either, and I worked in the field for 30 years. I see that you've gotten DME in durable medical equipment.
I think that's the company
The
that makes the
company
light.
out of Wisconsin.
Yeah.
I've worked with them for
Oh,
15 to 20 years.
interesting.
They're very good and reputable.
That's
We
good- it's
work
good to
mainly-
know.
We
It's
work
good to know.
mainly with wheelchairs with them.
Okay.
There is another company, but I don't know that we need to even look for it.
Well, not until we would actually know that we had the grant, and we're gonna
Right,
actually do it.
right.
So at this point, I just needed some numbers so I
Because
could write
think I
the grant.
emailed you with that one tape sometime, I can always do it again.
Yeah.
I don't remember the name, it's at the museum, it's a different company. The description's exactly the same as he gave us.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Yeah, so we probably would get multiple
It's
quotes when
conceivably
we
the
got to that
same
point.
lift that's
Oh.
coming under another name.
That's interesting.
That many of them out there.
No, there are.
Specialized
It's a very
equipment.
specialized.
Very specialized, it's like wheelchairs.
Right.
special.
The lift would require the least changes to the room in order to add,
Mhm, yeah.
to make it
And
compliant. We
that's-
wouldn't lose any
'cause-
space.
The labor alone is what it's gonna cost for
Okay.
construction.
Anyway, you look at it, there's gonna be some costs involved, but this, we wouldn't lose any space in the room, we wouldn't have to move the sound equipment. It
Yeah.
would be a simpler solution, but if we wanna visit several, I would wait until after I
Mhm.
see if I get this
No, but I
grant.
said that's a very workable situation. I was just thinking if the other one would it be a better situation? Would it be the same amount of money? I
I
don't know.
don't know. It's been discussed many times, I think.
Yeah. That's the first time I saw using that back room, breaking it down. And then too, we'd probably get complaints from the people who were back there saying, we're too far away.
And the soundboard's in front of them. and-
It's just, yeah, well,
Communications?
Communications.
Few articles this time. We did hit the paper a number of times. I'm sure you saw these with the building. Your pictures were all in the paper.
yes.
This is coming up, and we're not canceling this juggler on Saturday, the 27th. We will have it in here. It's the first program back here in the Baxter Room since we closed and now we're reopening it. So it's not as thick a folder this time, but there's some
I'm
things.
disappointed.
Just not been as many things to put in the paper.
I look at juggling in the library as something interesting. I don't want to be pro or con or anything, but it's nice to see that at least, since we no longer have Ed Sullivan, that the jugglers have a place to go.
I believe you. I'm in the mood tonight.
I had two other communications recently from people that want to donate money. One did, we received a $500 donation this week, so and it was very generous, it was for unforeseen expenses from renovation. So it was very nice, very encouraging to get.
For renovation.
For renovation.
General use,
Is it
yeah.
anonymous?
Very thoughtful. No, it's,
Who's
Well, they
such a nice-
generally don't make their names
We
public.
don't,
Well, if you don't have to, then okay, that's fine.
You can look, but you can't tell.
Yeah, well, that's okay, I don't think.
a very encouraging and nice letter, though, that came with this $500 donation. It was very nice to get.
okay, public comments on non-agenda items? We have no need for executive session.
No?
Then do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second that motion.
We're
All right.
adjourned
All third Art's motion.
That's great.
at 8:07.